With these government contracts, do they just take the lowest bid?
I'm just going to ask that.
Like, are there things that you can do in your business to help gain the contract?
It really depends. If in some cases they're looking for, like, there's different set asides. So they might be looking for a woman-owned business or just a small business in general, or maybe a veteran, a disabled veteran that's a business owner. So there's these set asides. And sometimes having these set asides makes you the only bidder or makes you like in competition with a lot less people. And with that being said, if you go in and you have a number that might be higher than the other people's number, but they didn't submit the bid the right way, because the government is very specific on how you submit the bid, it might be you and 3 other people bidding. But as long as you have everything situated the right way, honestly, that bottom line number that you're asking for won't even matter because you did it the right way. When I tell you they toss out information if it's not correct. And that's another strategy, is being able to read, the work statement and knowing exactly what they're asking for you and how to submit. So knowing all that puts you at a competitive advantage. And then there's set asides, which we were talking about: woman-owned business, small business owner, veteran, disabled veterans. There's different set asides that could put you in your own pool where you won't have to compete with everybody.
When they put the bid out, do they put that they're looking for that? Is it kind of a common thing that if you happen to be in these certain segments, you're going to get put to the front of the line every time, or only certain times? Or are there like rules of engagement and guardrails around this? Or is it like a woman-owned business is always put to the front of the line? Yeah, preferred. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, so what happens is it'll be listed in the contract that this is for, a woman-owned business, or this is for disabled veteran, or this is for a disadvantaged business. So there it's going to list it plainly in the contract what they're looking for. And then small business owners, we're already in our own set aside because because of our size standard, and they put almost a quarter of their contracts on the side just for us.
Nice.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. And so when you register at sam.gov, is that where you're putting in all the information that figures out which set asides you're in?
Yeah. So once you have your cage code and you have all that information, then you could go to sba.gov and then you could apply for those set asides.
So you apply for the set asides at sba.gov. Okay.
But you don't have to apply for small business.
Okay.
That's already automatically.
Is there some question in the thing based on how many employees you have that determines if you're a small business or not?
Yes. And then they dive into your financials as well. So you have to submit a few things to determine that.
Okay.
Wow, this is fascinating. I'm going to call it a niche, but I have a feeling this is a pretty big niche that's out there. Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen any or bid on any, or I assume you haven't won them, like substantial contracts? And what I mean by that is so we put on pickup and delivery workshops, right? People find it. We teach them how to launch and scale their pickup and delivery business efficiently and scalably and build redundancies and all these different things, right? And one of the things I tell people all the time in the workshop is, as much as you want to grow quickly, you have to be really careful, because you don't want to be the dog that caught the UPS truck, right? That dog thinks he wants to catch that UPS truck, and when he does, he gets run over, right? So you have to be really careful as a small business. Have you had any success or luck, or have you bid on any that you were like, whoa, that's way more than I thought it was? Are you able to kind of narrow that down before you even apply for it?
Yeah, there's some state procurement ones that kind of scare me. It's like for a hospital, and it requires linen rentals as well. And we haven't gotten into the linen rental side of it. So I'm like, I would like to, but I'm not sure. I have to be realistic. Am I ready for that? Yeah. I'm not sure if I'm ready for that just yet.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's that, there's that side of the equation, which may very well be true. And then there's the other side of business, which is, what the old adage, say yes and then learn how fake it till you make it kind of thing. Like you don't want to get run over by the UPS truck, right?
Yeah.
But the other side is you're not an expert until you do it once or twice or 10 times. So the first time may be a little clunky. So that's part of business.
One thing I would like to mention is we didn't have a van that was the right size for those linens for that contract, because it came in these industrial size
like hotel. Yep.
Yes. So while we were using U-Haul trucks to service the first part of it, while we were getting our van together, like we didn't have it all figured out, but whatever we had to be done, is what we did. So we used U-Haul trucks for probably the first 2 weeks of the contract while we were still purchasing the van.
Okay, I was going to ask you that's another side of it.
Is your laundromat ready to become the neighborhood's #1 choice? LaundroBoost has proven strategies to help your business flourish.
I think we saw changes pretty quick before that 4-month range. I'm in that 4-month range now, and we're seeing changes left and right. I mean, pickup and delivery clients, drop-off clients, self-service clients, business is up as a whole.
Literally, it was shocking to watch the numbers jump. I wish I could go back and I could begin to track these things, which I have done, to see what percentage growth we had, but it wasn't unusual to go up 30% per month.
At LaundroBoost, we specialize in fueling laundromat growth. Through targeted Google ads and powerful social media campaigns, we make your location stand out and attract loyal customers. Ready to level up your laundromat? Visit laundroboostmarketing.com and book a call with us for a free consultation.
Are you required to own the truck, or is it okay to rent a truck? Especially like we teach people in our workshops, obviously eventually in time you want to get your own trucks and vans and your own fleet and stuff, but we still use like U-Haul and Penske and stuff as a form of redundancy. If one fleet breaks down and, we don't have time to get it fixed today, we got work to do. Most of our customers, small business, residential, and even hotels and things like that, they don't care if we show up in a rented van, because the tire got flat that day or whatever. But I know there's a lot of security issues around going on government bases and certain clearance and stuff. So they'll I'm gonna say this is gonna sound really terrible, but they'll let any truck come through as long as you have the clearance personally?
Yes, and they also do checks. So they're going to check the back. They're going to check under the hood. So as long as nothing sketchy is in there, then you can get on base.
Gotcha. Okay. They don't care that it's a U-Haul. That doesn't.
They don't care that it's a U-Haul.
Just to get like really jaded for a second here, and then in the world of like, terrorism and stuff like that, right? It's like a common thing where they go rent a U-Haul. Stereotypically, right? I don't know. I didn't know if that was an issue for even getting on the bases. I do know a few clients of mine, and I've never dug in the details on them, that are in San Diego. And there's a bunch of military bases in San Diego, right? And they have some government contracts, and they've explained that they have to go do like a 3-day in-person course, just security clearance for the right to get on the base. And it's like literally all day, every day for 3 days.
And not every place requires a 3-day clearance. So for us, we just had to go in person, fill out some paperwork, and have it signed in, and then they did a background check. And once the background check came back, then we were issued clearance cards. But that's another thing. You would want to not have any felonies if you're trying to get on that base.
Okay. So I guess that makes sense. And I didn't know that there's levels to the clearance based on the security of the base. Is that pretty accurate?
Say yes. And then what we recently discovered was now certain bases are requiring real IDs.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's like the travel thing. You gotta.
Yeah. So I know we're in a transition between people not having it and people having it, but it's just pretty good to have it just so you can get on the basis.
Okay.